last week has been really challenging. Or how are you guys dealing with these missiles flying in the sky? The Lebanese people are the most resilient people I've ever met. They didn't have stability, didn't have government like for I don't know how many years. Civil wars, so much unrest. The war last year, like I won't lie, what happened to us last year that we had to be evacuated. Your level of tolerance does increase. When people now ask me, Anna, what are your plans for the summer? I say, I have no idea. I literally cannot plan. Let's say I've opened something here and then I need to move on or away. That's devastating. If you look to the outside world for the stability, it's not there. You have to provide it and have it within. Because you're absolutely right. Smart people marry smart people. Diplomatic spouse lifestyle was not built with us in mind.
When I came across your profile and I approached you that, okay, let's have this conversation because I think there is something in here, I had to go through a couple of things and find if there's anything to connect the dots or understand why this is the way it is. I came across one study which was done in Sweden from the University of Gothenburg. There's a study done by Victoria Skorobogatowa in 2023, okay? And it is about the role of diplomatic spouses, Bourdieusian Exploration, expectations, restrictions of contemporary diplomatic spouses.
Yes.
In that study, what I noticed is what I came across is 1970s, there were a couple of wives who came together collectively to act to abolish these unwritten obligations. 1970. Yeah. Since then, apparently, and also in 2000, there were again another couple of wives came together and said, okay, we want to work. We do not want to follow these unwritten obligations, which is like, learning through a manual how to communicate, how to host an event, how to organize a party. There's a lot written on it. So when I came across this one, I was really surprised. And I'm going to read out a paragraph from that study. In 1970s, wives were in several European countries taking collective action to abolish these unwritten obligations. Yet, till this day, spousal labor persists. By interviewing 6 diplomatic wives, the study aims to examine if this is the case even in very gender progressive countries. And it uses the analytical tools of Pierre Bourdieu's practice theory. He was a French socialist, apparently, and into public intellectual. So he had a theory. The 3 main concepts of his theory are habitus, capital, and feel. Habitus refers to the deeply ingrained habits and skills and dispositions that individuals acquire through their life experience. So, which is the wives. So when they're living in a certain way, there's a habit, there's a skill that they acquire, and what you do with that skill. And his analysis is helpful with this study because it seeks answers to why do people do the things they do, what they can gain if they follow a certain social conduct, and what they risk losing if they do not. So I'm going to really share the link of that study for the audience to go through it. And I'm sure like you will also find something interesting in that bit because indeed, as you said, that a lot of spouses, they're qualified to probably be a doctor, probably be a lawyer, PhDs, or they probably have come from a financial background and have to just be a trailing spouse. And it does take a toll on their mental health. And but with that said, I'm moving to the next question is, with that said, there are certain personalities who take this lifestyle quite differently. Like somebody will really, as an introvert, will take this lifestyle, in fact, will struggle more there. And an extrovert will really take it positively, will be quick in cultural integration and settle down with the new place and find new connections. So my question to you is, how does one cope when their personalities are different with this constant change? Which category do you fall in this, as an introvert or an extrovert, or is it something evolving? Long question. Sorry, I spoke so much.
I think it's a beautiful question. I just wanted to touch quickly upon the study you've
Yes.
been
Yeah.
quoting. I'm familiar with that
Oh, yes.
study.
Yes.
It's really interesting. I mean, actually, what she says, the diplomatic profession is so traditional, and the world still handles it as its 19th century, and that's why it's so outdated and needs to be changed. Because you're absolutely right, smart people marry smart people. So most of us have multiple degrees. We are doctors, lawyers, PhD holders, and so on. And that's why very devastating if you cannot use those skills. Right? There is really a huge untapped pool of potential, basically.
Yeah.
And it's not good for us, not good for the society. But to answer your question on extrovert, introvert, I actually think it really comes down to you. If you're happy in your own skin, comfortable, really loving, appreciating yourself, it doesn't matter that much whether you're extrovert, introvert, or something else. Because if you approach everything, including other people, new culture, from this place of, hey, I'm so anchored in myself, I'm so at home, I'm so at peace. It's easy then to build relationships. It's easy to see the positives wherever you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the power skills, super skills we all have. I dare to say, as expat partners, if you move around the world a lot, I think you become really good at focusing on the good things. Because this lifestyle is not sustainable if you see the bad things first. Really, like in my roadmap to anyone, like my advice, if you're embarking on this journey, please, wherever you go, just make sure you see the positives, see the good stuff. It doesn't mean you have to be blind and close your eyes and just don't see, the disadvantages or something that disturbs you, but really try to focus on what works.
I think it also comes down to the evolving personality. With each move, you are evolved. You are exposed to certain perspective that you didn't have before, and that changes you. Something changes you when you see privileged life and underprivileged life, and I think that's the beauty of living abroad. The positive thing is that.
Exactly, and I think what you also just said, the way I see it, when you live in a country, right, you do absorb part of the culture, even if you don't assimilate completely. It really rubs off somehow. It leaves an imprint, and it does change you. I can only share how even this last 1.5 years in Lebanon has changed me. The Lebanese people are the most resilient people I've ever met. They didn't have stability, didn't have government like for I don't know how many years. Civil wars, so much unrest. The war last year, and it just when you spend some time here, it just really it has a big impact on you too. It makes you question how you see life, how you approach it, and makes you also, as a result, more resilient, because kind of we are now walking on the same bumpy road as the Lebanese people.
Yeah. How do you handle yourself seeing the unrest which is around now, around you, right? We're talking about the missiles. Some people saw it in the sky, and there are a lot of videos online, because it must be uncertain is a very small word to describe the situation, I guess. But the fear, your kids, one of them is in boarding school.
Mhm.
How do you handle that? Because that comes with diplomat lifestyle, and one can look at that as a privilege, but okay, this is the risk. And I don't think so people are aware of it, or people are aware of it, but the intent, the depth of it is something that only the person going through knows, which is like in your case.
Exactly, because as a diplomat, you're not necessarily sent to the most peaceful locations, right? So it comes, it's part of a package. And exactly this emotional maturity and resilience to be able to handle the upheaval like that. And it is very challenging. Like I won't lie, what happened to us last year that we had to be evacuated, and what's happening right now. I don't know, it's very interesting how somehow your level of tolerance does increase. Because when people now ask me, Anna, what are your plans for the summer? I say, I have no idea. I literally cannot plan. I don't know. I cannot tell whether my daughter will be allowed to come here in 2 weeks. No one can predict. No one has a crystal ball. And exactly how do I hold myself and everyone around me through all that? I think that's why this emotional anchor and being so stable in yourself, I think that's the key. There is no other way, because if you look to the outside world for the stability, it's not there. You have to provide it and have it within.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. And in this, you also have this the spousal support that you give, and it's in Lebanon, right? That you give in Beirut. What do you think, in your experience, how can we create broader range of support options that allow both social connection and emotional depth? That is something you experienced, and with experience, you can, I'm sure, see it, and you have a better idea of what is the right support.
I love this question, Sabir, because exactly we need this support. And both of us know our lifestyle is pretty unique. And I feel understood the most when I share with people who are in the same boat, because we know exactly what we are going through. And that's why, for me, how do we support each other is by having a space, having a community, be it in person. And as you said, that's what I'm doing right now in Beirut. Once a month, we come together and we literally fill our cups, like literally, like have a coffee, but also we fill our cups from within. Because it's one thing to have a social life
Yeah.
with social connections, but I personally, through all these years, came to the conclusion that a lot of these connections stay on the surface. And it's very easy to just keep talking about schools and the travels and how difficult it is to buy good beef here. I don't know, like stuff like this. And what I'm after, and I think what we all deeply crave, need, and desire is really proper connection, where I can take my mask off and say, Sabia, actually, last week has been really challenging. Or how are you guys dealing with these missiles flying in the sky? When we talk about real topics and not the surface stuff, we've all been there. It's not fulfilling, and that's the aim and my goal. Safe spaces, no judgment, really being heard, really being understood, and really being appreciated, because what I do is amazing, what you do is awesome too, right? How to reflect back to each other.
Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot when somebody says, okay, you're doing a good job. I think what we right now are, we both are at the same junction. I feel that with our personal experiences, we want to help others. And we do have, that's why, synergies in our work. Um, and while I say that it is similar, there are still some differences between both of us. But again, the aim is quite genuine.
Yes.
Space where the diplomat spouses or the expat spouses can be heard and seen, and indeed remove the mask, not speak on the surface level, which is the same and the same old stuff. Because all of a sudden you will notice that, after moving so many countries, while it is you and me as well, we come to a point that the formal coffee mornings start to become quite shallow, right? There is no depth in those coffee mornings. Where are you from? What do you do? Okay, the same answers. Oh, your child goes to that school, yes. And it doesn't add any meaning to our life. And it's
Yeah.
a waste of time, honestly, at some point, because as we grow older, we've got that wisdom and we want to really be very specific with whom do I want to spend my time
Yes, absolutely.
and finding
No,
the true meaning of
100%.
living right abroad. So, yeah.
But Sabir, what I also realized, sometimes you need to be that brave voice in the room to say, hey, let's talk about real stuff. And you need to open up first and show some vulnerability. And often it gives other people permission to actually exhale
Hmm.
and know, ooh, I can be real. And people appreciate and love it because that's all what we needed. I think it's really kind of this intrinsic human need, this proper deep connection instead of just staying on the surface. I agree with you. Hugely dissatisfying, unfulfilling, and waste of time. Instead of this, oh, Sabia, I see you as a person and I'm really impressed with what you're doing. But also know the challenges behind it because I'm in your shoes.
Yeah, yeah. Like I also noticed one thing with what you're doing, your work, it does help you in some other role, I'll say. I, as a host of this podcast, as the founder of this podcast, what I also did is I'm the volunteer chairperson for in the school for the parent community. Okay, and there I organize as part of the activity uh, on Women's Day. I framed a couple of questions, and I found out a couple of ladies who can speak, come speaker on those questions, and it was stunning to see the depth, the emotions of how they were feeling as a woman that day. And one of the major point that we saw was the touching point was of leaving my own identity, leaving my work, and joining as an expat spouse, and what it does, and then how lonely I feel in a country which I don't know. I'm trying to integrate, but at the same time, it is a bit more of no other option than to integrate, right? A little bit forced. The
Mhm.
personal journeys experience, the way it came out, it was beautiful to see that. So, and that was nice because then that was a truly meaningful setup that I am keen to. Then a coffee morning where it is just for good smiles and
Mhm.
this level talk. So I'm sure you also have come across sometimes a conversation, but all of a sudden somebody opens up, whether it is you starting with you or somebody else just saying, "Hey, I don't feel good," and
Exactly.
it is how it is. I don't want to sugarcoat anything and sound it like, okay, I'm gonna try and it's gonna be okay. No, I'm not.
No, exactly. I think that's the whole thing with this expat lifestyle is that it's we're grateful, right? It is an amazing lifestyle, but I think it's we shouldn't be dismissing what we are going through and those very real challenges to identity, to well, what does it do to our sense of self
Mm.
throughout our journeys? And I think when you give people this opportunity, either by being real and authentic yourself, or just as you said, you created the space and ask questions. And I am also like you every time really taken aback by what comes out.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable because it's there. Really, we want to be heard. I don't want to silence myself, all what I'm going through. I want to share my story. I want to be heard. I want to be visible,
And that's not
right?
much, right? I mean, that is just a very basic thing to be visible.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I noticed one thing, right? With you having a space for the spousal support, your brand is called Not Just a Spouse, right?
Mm.
With diplomat and expat spouse is not allowed to work, whether it is due to visa or the immunity laws for in diplomatic conditions. How did this limitation impact your personal sense of purpose? And how did you work around it? Because now that you have a spouse with
Mm.
not just a spouse, you must have found your way. Just trying to understand how did you do that? Because I'm sure there'll be a lot of ladies around who probably can be motivated to do that.
Yes, so it's hugely challenging because there are a lot of restrictions, a lot of rules. And as we both agreed, we are educated, ambitious, very smart women and men being in this trailing spouse role. And I think it's, yes, it's wonderful to be a wife. It's wonderful to be a mom. And if it's all you want, fantastic. But if you need more, if you need and feel like you'd like to fulfill yourself as a person, and then you face all these hurdles and restrictions, it can be very demotivating. It can be really heartbreaking. And again, it varies per country. It depends on the rules, whether this country and this country have reciprocal agreements. The spouses are allowed to work, not allowed. Long story. I think exactly just try to find something that creates meaning and purpose for you. And it can be anything. Maybe it's volunteering, right? Giving, sharing your skills. Maybe you can find an online job or continue the job you had before. Sometimes you're allowed. Again, there are, like, I cannot say it works for everyone, but there are definitely more options now. And how I navigated that, well, I hit the wall a few times with my really being unable to have continuity in my personal career. It was not possible with all those moves and the restrictions. And it's just because now you run your business a bit, it takes time for things to grow. And often, if you're a diplomatic spouse, let's say I've opened something here and then I need to move on or away, that's devastating. It's kind of your baby, and now you have to almost kill it if you cannot take it with you. So I went through these motions, and that was not much fun. So what I've created right now, what I'm doing, it's a portable job.
Okay.
I love doing, and I can do anywhere in the world because, like, you are now in India, I'm in Lebanon. We can still have this wonderful, meaningful discussion. So exactly, see what works for you. Again, if your kids are young, don't put too much pressure on yourself. If it's important for you to have something on your own, think what it would be, how to do it. Maybe start with little steps. If your kids are a bit older, think, okay, I'm really ready to go all in. It's where I am now. And it sounds like you are there too. So there are no rights and wrongs, but I think it's really sit down with yourself,
Yeah.
get quiet, and really think, what do I want? What are my needs?
Yeah.
And how can I meet them? That's it.
Yeah. I think you also have to see that in the expat community, what I noticed is there's something called as dual career. So which means that when your husband is offered a job before he signs the contract, or when he's considering, the company also offers the wife, the partner, to connect with another organization who will help the partner find a job based on the degree and the experience in that expat country. IDCN.
Yeah, IDCN. No, I actually have to admit I was not aware of it, and I think that's amazing that you have this opportunity. But then again, because I listened to some episodes today, the ladies you've interviewed, your friends, and you recommended me listening to them. And one of them said, I can't remember the American one, like, what do you do? You have your 7 years, 15 years CV gap. Like, where are you going? What are you going to do with that? It's not of use, much use. Anyway, like, you're not employed. But exactly, it's wonderful that it's offered, I have to admit. How amazing is that?
So the organization, like International Dual Career Network, IDCN, they help spouses in finding professional opportunities, and permits foundation and independent not-for-profit organization campaigning globally to improve work permit regulations so that partners of highly skilled international employees may directly access employment while in the host country. Okay, this is something should be made aware to all the companies, and I'm not too sure, maybe also to diplomatic circle. Why not? Because what they're doing is something very important, and with that, then the partner can continue the career just like the working expat or the diplomat, and there is not much of compromise. I'm not saying that is the only solution, but it is an opportunity that one should consider. And the companies, I think it is based in Zurich, that organization, IDC, and they do help. There's some kind of a tie-up that they have with certain companies, but not all. So what they're doing is fantastic, and what Permits Foundation is also doing is great. Yeah, something to look out. Yeah, but also with this one thing, I do recognize that if you want to work abroad, there's certain obligations, there are restrictions besides the visa. Like if you are a lawyer, you cannot work in the host country. If you are a psychologist, so I have a friend who's a psychologist, she cannot continue her work because of what she learned in that country, and the host country is completely different. So, which means you need to reskill or upskill. So, these are the restrictions that, in spite of your highly qualified degree, unfortunately, will not be able to have a solution, even if the organizations like this help. That is something we have to really but companies do offer that you can do a course, you can enroll in a upskilling course in the host country. I'm not too sure, is it also possible in diplomat Lifeside?
No, actually, I'm really impressed and happy to hear that such organizations exist and they do help accompanying spouses. Or as far as I know, there's nothing like that offered for the diplomatic spouses. Although, having said that, I know some governments, some ministries try to provide, if possible. Let's say I'm working for a Canadian embassy, posted here as an officer, and if there are some job openings, the embassy would first offer it to the spouses, see if there are matching skill sets. Maybe spouses would be able to take on this role. But again, talking from experience, in most cases, it doesn't work like that, or there are often, unfortunately, there are not many opportunities and a lot of restrictions.
Well, we've covered today a lot of points, and I'm really happy that we have done, because I'm sure you see, as much as I want to talk in depth, I think we can go on and on.
Yes.
I'm coming to the last part of the podcast. Yeah. You've walked this journey from feeling invisible to creating impact for others with not just a spouse club. For any spouse listening right now who's in this in-between spaces, unsettled, unsure, or maybe even a little lost, what's one thing you would want them to hold on to?
Well, I would like them to know that if they are feeling a bit stuck, a bit unsure about themselves or what they're doing, why they're doing it, I want them to know they're not alone in this experience, because all of us felt this way to a larger or lesser degree at times. They are not the problem. If you think you are the problem, why you are not happy, something must be wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not the problem. You are not alone, because this lifestyle, be it expat, spouse lifestyle, or expatting as such, or diplomatic spouse lifestyle, was not built with us in mind.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why we often feel like an appendix and like, a suitcase being dragged around the world. So it has nothing to do with you. You are not the problem. It's very, very challenging. And you might feel out of place in this way and even question yourself, just because we unfortunately don't talk about it enough. And I think, Sabir, what you do and what I do, and that's why we are here together. We are changing this status quo.
Yeah, I'm glad that this opportunity came to both of us due to our work with our experiences. Thanks to LinkedIn, of course, which really is one of the is the source of actually me finding you or we finding each other.
Yes.
And I'm sure the ones who are tuning in, they will have so many insights from your story, from your journey, whether it is expats or diplomatic spouses, because the stories are similar. And if you are listening and you think that I can see my story in her story, trust me, that's our job done, right? That's what the main aim is to do that. Create a space where she can talk about her journey, I can talk about my journey, and if you can connect, well, that's what it is. Anna, thank you so much for your time. And I'm going to share your links for notjustaspouse.com to check out uh, the work that you do. And all the best with whatever is coming in future. Is there anything special in the pipeline that you probably want to share?
First of all, thank you so much, Sabia, for facilitating this wonderful discussion. This conversation was a pleasure connecting with you, and exactly listening to your story, your experience with this expat lifestyle, and exactly if our listeners relate to what we were talking about, then we did our job. What's in the pipeline? I am going to host next week my first global coffee morning. It's not going to be a coffee morning because it's a global one. So I'll call it, I think, not just spouse club for diplomatic spouses. Some more details will be coming on LinkedIn because doing it face to face in Beirut and Lebanon is wonderful. But there are so many of us in all corners of the globe, and we all need this space. So that's what's coming next.
Wow. So I think I'm going to share, of course, your LinkedIn profile as well, so that people can look, the others can look as to what is coming up. And yeah, all the best for that. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for your time, Anna. Bye bye.
Sabia.